All right. Hello and welcome. So, also, I just realized that, well, I'll have to double check with my kiddos that this is okay with them, but this is our realm. Sorry, this is it's going in the Two Taboos playlist because I've been working on a couple of projects that I wanted to talk about. And I don't know how long this musings is going to last. Huh, that's interesting. So we're back to the city texture pack. And wow, that is really interesting. I guess that's what Darkwood. Yeah, so these are the animal farms. Ugh, I'm not very nice to animals, so not intentionally mean, but like, this game I'm just taking advantage of the mechanics and blah blah blah. In the real world, I would not do this. In fact, in the real world, well, we can talk about one of those projects that I'm working on. And it's not just me. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Whenever I say that I'm working on a project, it doesn't mean that I'm just like the greatest thing ever and like I'm the only one that's doing it. Far from the truth. There are millions of people out there just trying to, that's what everybody's trying to do. Work on projects to accomplish goals to either benefit themselves or their fellow person. Like that's all it comes down to. Ooh, this is pretty cool though, like seeing this as a city texture pack. I haven't seen this world as a city texture pack yet. So all this, like, I built this house, which I'm not too happy with yet. I do like the idea of the moat, and I've got some upside down stairs, trying to make it look like a bridge type thing. But it's too cramped, and also I merged it into this house. Yeah, like I don't really like that. I mean, it would have to be like a better merge, or make it like one house. I don't know. It should be moved over a couple spaces. But hindsight's always 2020, or usually 2020. But anyways, no. So for the two taboos, religion and politics, these projects are working on merging them, melding them. Also, I think it's we can change it from peaceful to not, but it's in easy. Let's actually go ahead and do hard and check out this the mob grinder. I gotta be careful because now that it's hard, they might pop up in places that I didn't expect, like here. Oh, jeez, and I don't have any. So this is my son. This was my son's. Oops. Also, I've been playing on the Switch a lot, so now my like A and B are backwards. You can't really see. Oh, jeez. Let's get rid of some of these eggs. Let's go throw them in a thing. But basically, so the projects is to draw communication and clarity from all of the nonsense. And the nonsense I'm talking about are the two taboos, politics and religion. So, and that's what a lot of people are trying to work towards, is try to explain how just about every religion in human history has very similar goals, very similar mechanics, and very similar requirements. Like all of it is very similar. I mean, and it makes sense when you think about it in a macro level view of humanity just trying to do human things, like just trying to make life better for each other and themselves. Like, also here's the mob grinder. Let's see, it works better if you gotta go up. And I've read about it before, like the actual numbers of how far hostile mobs will spawn away from you. I think it's like 32 blocks is like the sweet spot of like where they usually try to spawn. And then they'll radiate outward from that. Like if they're not able to spawn in a 1x2 spot 32 blocks away from you, then they'll try some other spot and all this. Yep, and actually let's go ahead and look at that. It is all bricks, stone bricks. So, wait, ah, that was weird. And it is all made the same. Let's go ahead and, wait, is it still on? Yeah, I just switched it to hard, so let's go all the way up. Not all the way, but a decent way up. And we'll start having them spawn. Now there is light. Oh wait, I guess this is as far as I can go for now. Didn't realize how I've been working on building more layers of this. But anyways, so the current situation, politics and religion. So how you fix it is you make it communicated to everybody, and every single decision made by government has to adhere or has to be approved by the populace. Now, this seems like a very daunting and insurmountable task, but it's actually quite easy. We need to allow well, actually enforce that all laws need to be as plain as day, as understandable as possible. We need to outlaw intentionally confusing people by muddying up the waters, and then, especially to conceal nefarious acts. Like, if you're trying to raise taxes on poorer people, and that's the biggest thing. Project 2025 is huge. And now there's a lot of people that say, oh, well, Project 2025, that's not Trump's thing. That's not, no. Well, now that he picked J.D. Vance, and I wanted to fact check this, but I read that J.D. Vance left his Venmo, and I follow a bunch of, pro-Democrat groups on the social medias and whatnot. But I heard that J.D. Vance left his Venmo transactions public, and so I think he was trying to be more like, oh, I have nothing to hide, and I think, because of campaign laws, it's going to get found out anyway. Like, there's going to be access to that if, the FBI or the CIA or whoever's in, I think it's the FBI that investigates stuff like that, but, the people that would be investigating, and I guess maybe it's because there's too much light. Well, in either way, I would have to put a stopper down on that one because even if I stopped up this, all the light coming in from there, yeah, you can see all the way down. But anyways, no. So these two projects specifically for the immediate future, like just to get ahead of Project 2025. Oh, well, no, let me finish that thought first. So Project 2025, for those that don't know, it's like a 900-page document of a bunch of really good sounding stuff. I mean, when you kind of read it in pieces, but then you kind of like read it all the way through, you're like, wait a minute. I have not read it, but I've listened to a lot of people that have, and they've pointed out specific things. And I start to read it, and of course, it's that glossing over of like they put so much stuff in there, and they muddy up the waters so much that they can sneak in stuff like I don't know. Some of the most concerning is the taxation, like continuing to shift the tax burden because we do have a tax burden. A country costs money to run. That's plain and simple, especially if we want as big of a military as we have. A country costs money to run. Now that money has to come from somewhere, and a lot of it doesn't come from the people. So you have projections, right? Finance people, they make projections and budgets based on those projections. And those projections are linked to income coming in, like the tax revenue. Now, the people making all this money and our GDP and all these different measurements of this country's wealth keeps track of that and says, wait, no, these people made this much money and they're not paying this much money. Like they're basically evading taxes. Now, whether, and then the IRS has to investigate stuff like that. Like, I don't know, did they, oh, I don't have any. That's okay. We already got, slime was the name of the game here. And we already have a bunch of sticky pistons now to experiment with redstone doors. But anyways, now what it is doing crazy things like making a golf course into a cemetery, like, and taking the tax benefits of having a multi-use property like that. All because he just buried his ex-wife on his golf course and doesn't maintain it at all. At all. And but then it's just argued, oh well, it's just a bad cemetery, like a poorly kept cemetery. But not really. He just buried his ex-wife on his golf course to save money on taxes. Now, and that's just one thing that's easily to point out. Like the things that he's done wicked, like allowing the pipeline to basically drill or to dig up a bunch of cemeteries of Native Americans and sacred burial grounds and sacred grounds. Like, yeah, I just realized I don't have. Wait, do I have? I don't have Silk Touch on this, so we can only do the pumpkins. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and do some of that while we chit chat about this. 'Cause I do have a pretty good, decent farm going here. But anyways, no. So, and the idea that like a lot of Republicans want to make this more of a Christian nation, it's all fine and good if you just called it, make it a nation that follows good family values, and then I don't know. There's ways to go about it. Like it doesn't have to be tied to Christianity. Like a lot of the Bible is really good. Has really good stuff in there. Very peaceful, very kind, very. But the same could be done with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Bill and Ted said, "Be excellent to each other." That is Christianity at its base. Be kind to one another. Treat others as you'd like to be treated. Now, if Trump wants to turn a blind eye to a company that's digging up, dead bodies of, the former people, the descendants of natives, then that must mean that he's okay with people digging up Catholic cemeteries. Oh, but if anybody, and I've done that on social media, been like, remember when Trump wanted to dig up all those Catholic cemeteries? And then people will correct me, be like, actually, it was, and they don't actually correct me because then they realize the hypocrisy. Like, just because a person is brown or was born in a different place, that doesn't mean they're not human. It doesn't mean that if God exists, that that's not one of God's children. And I still think God was a woman, but that's my thing, you know. So, or even just the Big Bang. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. Like, we just don't understand it yet, and that's fine. Like, we're continuing to try to learn that. But anyways, and everything that we point to, every single religion in existence, almost every, I can't speak for every last one. There's probably some messed up ones out there, but the main purpose of religion is to respect whoever or whatever created us and live in ways that would make that thing, that person proud, or at least not anger them. Like that's the bottom line. Like, let's at least not try to upset whoever whatever made us. Don't disrespect whoever put in the work. Now, granted, if we are just a random happenstance, then thank you to, I don't know. I still think, there might even be a layer of aliens that bred us to like harvest gold, and they check back in on us and make sure that we don't blow each other up. Like, because there's all those conspiracies about how like nuclear war should have happened a couple of times, but like what was it? Like one a missile blew up on the launch pad or something, or like was disabled, and they couldn't explain why. It was like some interference that there was no way they could account for. They still don't even know what the interference was, and they can't really trace it back to a different country because even like we might not have the technology to do something like that. Because if we did, we'd be doing it left and right and disabling every kind of nuclear weapon, like just doing it just because. So, and as I say that, yes, that totally could be feasible. That it's just the CIA, and that's all they're doing is like, yep, well, we're about to hit nuclear war. Let's just do this, and boom, done. So, because I do know that we have interfered with one nuclear thing, and that's in that book, The Perfect Weapon, which go check it out, go read it to see what I'm talking about. Because at the same time, I'm trying to be careful not to slander my own country. Because at the end of the day, I don't want death. That's my big thing. I want every single person to be able to be excellent to someone else and be excellent too, and be treated in an excellent way. That's it. And that's what everybody wants. Now, with all these lies, and okay, so let's get to these projects. So there's Project 2025, and then there's my projects, or well, projects that I'm working with other people and working on, and you know, doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what, like all you need to know is mostly it's just me just like brainstorming stuff and then like putting those ideas out there to other people. Basically like a single person think tank. Because all I do is think. No, I do a lot of thinking, but it does turn off every now and then. But no, the current projects are how to get Trump excommunicated and then labeled as a terrorist. Ooh, that's a big stretch. Hold on, let's back that up there a little bit. The excommunication, and these are only temporary. He can repent, he can atone, he can make amends. But we're at war with terrorism currently, like our country, America is. And terrorism is defined as ruling through fear or coercion or violence. Like it is governing through fear, coercion, violence. Now, the violence, that's a weak argument, and that's why, I don't think more people haven't tried to do this, but lying and trying to stoke fear unnecessarily in order to persuade or convince your followers, your voters, that's terrorism. You are trying to instill terror to rule. That's textbook vanilla terrorism. So, now the severity of that, all I want to see is just Trump to stop lying. Same with Biden, too. I mean, I caught him lying that tiki torch thing, like how there was good people on both sides. There were good people on both sides. And no, not everybody that was mad about statues being torn down is a racist or is a Nazi. Like, and just because there are racists and Nazis out there waving flags next to these people, South Park did a great job of explaining this. Like, in one episode, they had the conservatives getting mad at a flag, exactly that. And it was a flag about a black guy getting hung, and they intentionally made it as racist as possible. So it's so blatant and so just like, how could you not be offended by this? And the kids weren't because, and spoilers, the kids were so pure and so not racist that they thought everybody was mad because someone was getting hung. It didn't matter that it was a black guy surrounded by a bunch of white people hanging him. And these are stick figures too, by the way. Like, it's just like, but it's still messed up and intentionally so. That's why I love Matt Stone and Trey Parker because they're so brilliant like that. I still haven't been to Casa Bonita. I promise I will go. I was actually looking to buy a shirt because it's so hard for me to make it down to Denver just anyway. And then on top of that, I go plan out a nice fancy dinner with my family, my kiddos, and like I want to do that, and we will. For now, I have bought several of South Park's seasons. I've spent a lot, not a lot, but I've definitely supported one of my favorite TV shows. So, oh, I bought the movie. I bought, yeah, the first 10 discs sets I bought, or I was gifted too. So somebody purchased those for me. Just birthdays, Christmases, because that's what I was into. Loved it, still am. Haven't watched like the last like 20 seasons, but it's just because it's really hard now. I mean, it was easier back in the day when I had a lot of more free time and stuff, but now it's like, whew. Anyways, no excuse. I will, but yeah. Either way, I think I might just buy some shirts, have them shipped here, and then when I do get the chance, because I do, I love that they bought Casa Bonita. But anyways, the point is, their solution was to have a flag that had all different types of people hanging a black person, including another black person. So then it was like it was showing fair and equal. It was still messed up and macabre, intentionally so, but that's the point of it. Is like the Confederate flag supported slavery. It supported the lifestyle that we could abuse other people and treat them as animals, at least for a certain amount of their life, which we still do with prisons and the war on drugs. We still treat people as less than human for at least 10 years of their life if we catch them trying to take shortcuts of happiness. Now, why do I say it that way? Is because substance use is a shortcut to happiness. Now, the people that aren't used to a lot of it, or even if they think they're not used to a lot of it, because perception is reality, then they'll go and seek shortcuts of happiness through drugs and substances. They'll try to make themselves happy on command. And that's just human nature. Like, there's a bunch of psychology experiments out there. In fact, I was reading about one just the other day. It's like they had a bunch of people sitting in a room, and men were more likely to give themselves a shock because they were bored than women, and it showed like how much. And I had to laugh at that. Like, and on average too. Like, there are so many different like variants of gender, and this was another thing from Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Starry Messenger, talking about gender and computer science and binary and the ones and zeros. Like, yes, we have defined that, but even I learned in a networking class that it's not actually 0 and 1 all clean like that. It's a variation or a gradient scale of energy levels and signal levels that we interpret as zeros and ones to make computer science work. Now, and that makes total sense because it would be almost impossible to make hardware, especially affordable hardware too. You got to keep in mind that this stuff has to be mass produced and given to all the people on Earth and work and function to a level of satisfaction every day, all the time, under heavy stress loads. Like, so anyways, the point is like the fiber optics, the internet lines, all that, they're sending signals, but it's just an up, down, up, down, up, down. Now that could be zero point 0.5 is a 0 and 1.5 is a 1 or whatever, like any relational, and it changes too. It's not the same. It's just like, okay, I can tell that the intensity raised, so that indicates that that's supposed to be a 1. And then the intensity lowered to this threshold, so that's supposed to be a 0. And then it interprets it as such. And same with color and light. That's what Neil talks about in his book is we've got Roy G. Biv, so we've like put all color, all visible color, like look at all these colors, into 7 bins. Roy G. Biv, I think that's 7. Yeah, ROYGBIV. Red, orange, yellow, uh, green, blue, indigo, violet. But there are millions of color combinations in between even those ranges. Same with audible sounds. There are ranges that we can't hear and ranges. So the point is not everything is as clean cut as binary, especially gender. Now sex, like what you were born at birth, even that isn't completely, isn't completely guaranteed or set in stone because, well, for one, in nature, the sex of an animal can change. Like, and there's different species where that's just is a thing. And same with plants too. The marijuana plant, the cannabis plant, it's what they call a hermaphrodite. Like they have the potential to change their sex or change what they are. Like, and I think that happens. I've had it explained to me quite a few times, but like, because it's something that you've always wanted to look out for if you were growing cannabis, especially back when it was illegal, because it was already so hard to get a plant and all that and maintain it. But then on top of that, you got, well, if it becomes a male plant, then it becomes less potent and it starts producing less THC, or the less of the chemicals that make it psychoactive and make it pleasant. So, and even, I don't know. I was also reading about like how cannabis used to be much more prevalent into the food chain, or prevalent in the food chain, making it to where just a passive benefit of having it legal, or not even just like illegal or illegal, just not bothered, it naturally occurred because it's a weed, it's a plant. Like I mean, it's like, it grows actually pretty easily. I mean, it is temperamental, but there are plants out there that are much more harder to grow. Anyways, maybe weed is a little too strong. They are kind of still hard to grow, especially if you want to grow them properly, like with extra chemicals and stuff, or different types. There's different type of cannabinoids, like different subgroups. And see, even right there, weed. You know, you just lump it together as weed is the devil's lettuce, like in the reefer madness and all the propaganda that we've proven is false. We've proven that it was propaganda and scare tactics and terrorism. It was, because it scares you with falsehoods and it misleads and governs and rules and justified rules and laws that were not constitutional. In fact, with alcohol prohibition, they had to have a constitutional amendment, or maybe it wasn't an amendment, but they actually had like a movement, an action, like a law that was, actually I think it was an amendment, but prohibiting alcohol. And then after that, they got lazy and they just gave the DEA the power, or the FDA, just be like, okay, if it's classified as a dangerous drug, then boom. And weed was classified as a Schedule 1, up there with meth and heroin. Like the worst drugs that you could ask anybody with any experience with substances. They'll tell you those two, meth and heroin, are the worst, the most dangerous, the most damaging. So, and then there's weed. Never killed anyone from direct use. Killed about a couple hundred a year from traffic accidents. And yes, that probably will go up once it becomes more mainstream. However, imagine all of the deaths that would go down, a deficit of deaths from people choosing weed over alcohol, which a lot of people tend to do because it's dangerous to mix. It can make you extra dizzy, extra nauseous. You know, it takes away the fun. Like, what's the point if you're just going to get sick? And that's the same with drinking. Like, people realize pretty quick, like, I actually don't like drinking because then I have to spend a whole day of being sick. Like, yeah, it's fun, but you got to be very careful to watch how much you drink and whether you're drinking water. And as you lose control of your faculties, it gets harder and harder to keep an eye on that. And so then you get people that are so good, so trained at manipulating their bodies and their chemical intakes to where it becomes like a game, or like, I don't know. Sorry, we went off on a way tangent there, but my point is we need to make a system, a piazza, like that used to be the name of a software that we used in school, where you could come together and talk and parlor or parlay or talk with each other. That's the French terms for it, but and like the parlor is the talking room. But there needs to be a commonly accepted online resource that's accessible by all and contributable, and we're getting there. We've got things like Wikipedia, which is where we've got people coming together to add the world knowledge together to try to combine it for the betterment of humanity and all life too. It's not just humans, but we worry about ourselves first, self-preservation and all that. And then you get into PETA, and that's another thing Neil talks about in his book, The Starry Messenger, or Cosmic Perspective. I still honestly don't know which is the actual title. They're both kind of on there, but he has a section about PETA and vegetarians versus vegans versus meat eaters. Now, however you feel about it, the original PETA was brought about by mollusks, which mollusks are generally not thought of as like, as dangerous as eating a dolphin or eating a cat. Like, eating a cow seems much more preferable to a lot of Western culture people than eating a cat, whereas there are people in the world that eat cats, dogs, whatever. I mean, they eat whatever's available. So, and I think that's just the natural progression of humanity, is once you get to a point where it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you start, or once you reach a comfortable spot in life where you're no longer worried about your id, your ego, and your super ego, and your basic needs, and your shelter and your food. Once you get past that, then you start worrying about other things, people, places, preservation, and all that. Now, the problem with conservatives is they try to get to that point with shortcuts. They try to conserve what the good, and it's not all bad. It's not completely like everything is trash just because it's not a Democrat. Like there's a lot of shady stuff from Democrats too. Because at the end of the day, it's always been the wealthy governing the wealthy and everyone else. Like you can't get into politics if you don't have a strong family background. If you're a first generation college student, the chances of you becoming a politician are very slim because you don't have this stability of a family wealth or a family status where you could go to college and not worry about student debt crippling you for life. Or there's people that pay off their student debts for 20, 30, 40 years after they graduate college. And then, even then, it's like, you know, was it really worth it? So, and we're fine tuning that as well. We're finally cutting that down, which is dangerous because the more you make cuts to that, there's a chance for cutting people's jobs. Like, so I work for a nonprofit, educational institution, and we have a lot smaller team. I actually met with another team from another university. It was like they had like what 5 or 6 people on the call, all handling one system where we just have one person for our equivalent. I don't know, but nonprofit. That's like the key term. Is like if we changed everything to a nonprofit, and then it's like Jenga, like or kind of like you gotta like or no, it's like Indiana Jones. Like you can't just take something away without replacing it with something of equal value or equal efficacy. Now it's not like Indiana Jones because he's trying to rob a golden statue and leave a bag of sand. Like he's just trying to put something of equal value for weight or like an equal weight that wouldn't set off a trap. Now, but the concept, it's like if you take something away, you have to replace it with something that either fixes the problem better or doesn't break it further. Like, and that's why tech people, I trust the opinion of a tech person when they talk about politics more than someone who isn't completely like surrounded by tech all the time. Because when you're troubleshooting with an issue, the logic used to find an IT solution is let's make it better, not worse. Let's leave it better than we found it. Let's come in, and this is the thing that like red and blue keep going back and tearing each other's work down, the good and the bad, to where now we're stuck in this holding pattern of just like what. Anyway, sorry, I got way off topic there, but the point is I've been looking into it, and so far, from what I can see, Trump has broken every one of the 10 commandments now. Now that he is on an interview admitting that his new drug laws would execute a lady that he just pardoned, his justification was is she wouldn't have done it if the penalty would have been more severe. No, that's not how it works. People don't go and make mistakes and then stop and think, wait a minute. I mean, like a lot of people I know, and I myself included, try to think, how bad can this get with every decision we make? But there's sometimes where there's a decision where it's like, oof, maybe that could get you in trouble. But, are you making the best possible decision with all of the factors that you have at hand? Or just putting yourself in less situations to where you would be making such decisions. And that's the key. Now, for poor people, it's not all that easy. I mean, the poorer you are, the more likely you are to live in an environment where shortcuts are more appealing. Well, again, whether it's real or perceived inequalities or unfairness, you're going to see that and be like, well, so and so has this, this, and this. I'd like this, this, and this. And then, so how do I make that happen? Then you get into things like knockoffs or stealing. Hopefully, not stealing. That's probably the lowest of the low. Because not only are you trying to take a shortcut, you're making it harder for somebody else. But, and oftentimes, you're stealing from somebody that doesn't really have a lot themselves. So, and again, that goes into like sovereignty of the self. Like you have control over you and your stuff. You don't have control and shouldn't have control of other people and their stuff. So, and that's why I get it. Like taxes, when not explained properly, they can seem very evil, and they can be very evil. And I can understand why people are excited to get rid of government spending and cut the fat and drain the swamp and all these things, except the things that they're talking about cutting and draining, and those are actually things that were voted on, agreed on, and logically figured out to be like, yes, good solutions. Like the weather, having free access to weather information, It costs the average citizen, what was it? I was listening to somebody talk about that part of Project 2025, which would gut that, would get rid of that, no more funding for that. It's only $4 per person per year. $4 of your money, that's what amount of your taxes goes to making sure that, hey, you can tell what type of weather it is for, well, not for free. You pay $4 for it, but for like a couple candy bars anymore. You have weather information. That's fine. I like that. Now, I would like it to where everybody who works is able to afford stuff like that and be like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. And that's what it is. Is like if you can prove, which I believe is really easy to do, that Trump and a lot of the conservative leaders are specifically and intentionally trying to make problems for people. That's all you got to prove, and that does it. Project 2025 makes lots of problems for a lot of people. It takes away marriage equality. That's a big one. That was fought for years and years that people should be able to marry whatever person they want. Even the Pope's on board with it now. He doesn't like it, and I've read back and forth about that. Like I mean, it's like there's like a loophole. He allowed it to be praised, but yet not, or blessed, but yet not. I mean, it's still like they can get married, but not like receive his blessing or something like that. I don't know. So it's like you got like a partial marriage in the eyes of the church, but at least it's not like, hey, stone them to death. Let's go kill these people because they dare to be different. Like, nah, let them do what they want. Like, it's freedom, people, and any creation of God. And that's the biggest thing with the Bible too, because I grew up reading a lot of it. I'm gonna have to go back and read a lot more, but from what I understood was God, if he or she exists in the sense of the Bible, is a lot more concerned with are you being excellent to other people, and then he or she is supposed to judge the people. By taking over that, you are assuming the role of God. You are assuming the role of judge, jury, and executioner unduly and unnecessarily and unfairly, unjustly. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Only God is supposed to be judging people. Now, we can help it out and be like, hey, this is how we interpret it. Let's be careful with this. And that's why the founding fathers moved away from the Bible altogether. They wanted a separation of church and state, and I have seen that argument. It was in letters, it was in a direct communication, like, and it was very plainly said there should be a separation of church and state. Like, we should be free to practice, but free from the practice. And it's been debated back and forth a lot. Like, we are a Christian dominant country. We're not a Christian nation. We're an English speaking nation. That's fair to say. But we have a lot of Spanish speakers and other languages spoken in our country, and that's fine. We're the melting pot. And that's been like the basis of this country. What I've learned all through public school is we are accepting of immigrants. Now everybody's got to work. Now that's not a thing, and shortcuts. So really what law enforcement's job is to cut down on people taking shortcuts. Now, the best way to do that is education. If you can educate people on what a shortcut is and what's okay to do and what's not okay to do and why, because the why is the big part too. You got to explain to people. You can't just tell them don't do that. You got to explain to them and be like, this is why we don't do that. And then it makes sense. Like, this is why we don't gut funding for a lot of things and then don't replace it with anything, because it's fake. It's like Kim Jong-un in the movie The Interview, where they had fake grocery stores, and they found that out. They're like, wait, this is all fake food. Like, this is a lie. Because people will try to conceal or hide the shortcuts that they've taken against other people like that. And, and they get embarrassed and they get angry, like, how dare you expose me for what I've done, when people like that need to be exposed. And we're getting to a point where it's going to be next to impossible to hide this stuff. And I think the conservatives are realizing that the meek are about to inherit the earth with the age of information at everyone's fingertips. Like, you could watch this video, and learn all sorts of stuff. You could also learn false things too. Everything I say, fact check yourself. If you don't like it, go fact check it and then let me know. If I'm wrong, please let me know. I'm okay with that. Now try to be nice about it too. Don't be a prick. Be excellent. And correct me in an excellent way. And then we could discuss it. Or not. You could say your piece too in the comments here. You can make your own video and then send me a link, and then I might go watch your YouTube video. We could have discussions back and forth, but no. I mean, ultimately, and actually, I took all next week off. I'm on vacation again. I get a lot of vacations with my job. It's nice. I also earn it too. Oh my gosh, I do like three jobs, but it's okay. I love it. I'm gonna keep doing it as long as they'll let me. But, anyways, sorry, that's just my little soapbox spiel there. Whatever job I work, I do it seriously. I take it serious. I give my 2 weeks notice if I decide I need to part ways, all that good stuff. And that's one of the things I'm arguing with one of my friends with right now is he doesn't. He takes shortcuts against companies, and it's not even that I care so much about that. It's just he'll sit there and he'll talk for like an hour justifying it to himself and to me, like when I don't care. But at the same time, now you've wasted an hour of my time talking about it, wasting words. Yeah, it's okay, and I'll tell him that too. I try to say everything to people's faces that I say on these things, because I mean, they could very well watch these, and I don't want to be. Nobody wants to be that person talking behind somebody's back. So I try to make sure that everything I say. Anyways, that's another soapbox. So we have an excommunicated potential for Trump, and we also have a label of terrorist for Trump, because if he lied, if it can be proven that he lied to negatively impact other people and to rule through fear, then it's not that big of a stretch. Like, yeah, he didn't crash into any towers or anything. And yes, it is horrible that someone took a shot at him. I don't condone that at all. I feel horrible for that. Like, I still think it's kind of fake. Like, I mean, it's very lucky if it's not fake. Because, yeah, he was moving around. I watched the actual video of when it happened, and he was bobbing his head. It was like the worst time to take a shot, too. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, not trying to like say like he should have done a better job at killing somebody. No. Even though I'm not really a practicing Christian, or maybe more Arianistic, like where I don't believe Jesus was God, I still believe nobody should kill somebody. Period. Like, death is not your choice for other people. It shouldn't be. And that's what upsets me so much about Trump, is just like he's causing all these problems and taking away solutions without providing alternate solutions of equal or greater value. So he is doing a disservice, and then he's shielding it or hiding it, masking it as God's work. So that's just the absurdity, and I'm surprised he hasn't been struck by lightning, which kind of feel like proves that that's not a thing. But and that might also lend more evidence towards. Well, no, that doesn't necessarily. That's the straw man, which I was about to go into. Could mean that God's just floating in the part of the universe that we're no longer close to, and maybe we'll float back by there, like the actual pattern of like the movement of celestial bodies and how we're expanding outward until we'll collapse back in on ourselves. I think is what the standing theory is, the Big Bang. It's like an elastic system of repetition, that expansion and then compression down to a singularity and then an explosion and then expansion again all the way and repeat, like, and on such a large timeline that we'll never know, and no one person will know. Oh wow. Anyways, I went a little bit longer than the 30 minutes. But anyways, I'll cut it here now. But that's what's going on currently. Welcome to the realm. So, and yeah. And that's what I'm working on right now, currently. If we can just get him excommunicated before the election, that's going to take away the religious vote, and it's going to basically destroy the argument that anything he says or does has anything related to Christianity. Because it's pretty offensive to the people that actually want to be excellent to each other, to hear the stuff that he says, and then to see the ways that he lives and treats people and continues to live in greed. So, alright, ta-ta for now. I will see you in the next one. There's my soapbox for the day.